Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MYMEDIC. Sponsored by TEMBO TUSK. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by DMOS Collective, mission built and made for mobility. Sponsored by BrewTrek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
During this segment, we'll cover various topics with a connection to overlanding in some way. It could be land use news regarding the national parks or the Bureau of Land Management. We'll keep you up to date on any auto industry news when it pertains to relevant and potential overlanding vehicles. There will be camping and outdoor industry news, as well as photography and video, fishing, hiking, and on and on. Now, here's the news.
So I wanted to start out with the news. And the reason why I wanted to start out with the news is because in my eyes, a lot of these things are interconnecting. We were the other day discussing about how there's a reckoning coming in the overlanding industry. And I think some of these things correlate with that. The first one is, big news out there in overland world is Turtleback trailers. You were the one to break that to me. You seem to be on it days before anyone even knew about it. But anyway, Turtleback trailers, they stopped production. So what is your initial thought about that?
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. Stopping production is probably a light way of looking at it. They basically are out of business, right? I mean, somebody owns the name. Turtleback, for those of you that weren't aware, did get bought out. I don't remember how long ago that was, maybe a couple years ago, 3 years ago, by a larger company. And, the powers that be apparently recently, last week, decided that it was over. And they pulled the plug on Turtleback. They let everybody go. And, So, the announcement says that they're ceasing production for the rest of 2023. Here we are in March. I don't know what that means. I mean, to me, that means that they're out of business. Certainly, if you let all your employees go and there's no more production, that would indicate that. And I think it's indicative of a much, much, much larger thing going on in the overland community. So, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that and probably say some stuff we're not supposed to, like we always do, but that's part of the podcast here. So, folks, welcome aboard.
Well, the first thing I thought about when I heard they start production is exactly what you said. They're out of business. That's a very polite way of saying it. And I would love to hear that they just stopped production for a moment and came back. The flip side of that is there are so many trailers. When you go to like Overland Expo, half the place is trailers and trailer accessories and trailer hitches.
Yep.
So there was a saturation in how many trailers were out there, but also it's also like what I would call the used car salesman effect. There's so many bad trailers out there that it was very hard to differentiate yourself from the reputation of all the bad trailers. So
yeah,
I think
I agree. There's I mean, how many brands? 30, 50? Just a ton of brands out there, varying in quality from, what I would consider to be excellent quality all the way down to, good luck getting out of your driveway quality and everything in between. And I think the reality is that, like you said, Phil, it's hard to navigate through that. If you're looking to make a purchase, who wants to check out, first of all, who wants to check out 30 different brands to do your due diligence, right? That's a lot of work. And I think you're right. I think it comes down to marketing. It comes down to some of the industry probably indicated that there was crappy trailers out there, and I think people got confused as to which was which. But furthermore, I think we're beating around the bush a little bit. I mean, for one, Turtleback was probably on the high end of the price spectrum for trailers, right? So you're looking at $30,000 to $40,000 for a trailer. Now,
minimum.
For those of you familiar with the RV market, as an example, and I'm not suggesting for a second that it's apples to apples, but if you were to buy, say, a 24-foot travel trailer that came out of the Midwest, just a regular RV quality, which is certainly not made for off-road and certainly not, they're not, unfortunately today, they're not built very well, and they're, built to be light and cheap. But you're paying about $1,000 a foot. So you're looking at, you could get a 24-foot travel trailer for $24,000, which is considerably less, by the way, than the Turtleback trailer. And it has a bathroom. It has a shower.
Right.
It has a bed. It has because I mean, really, when you come down to it, what is a Turtleback trailer, or for that matter, what's an Overland trailer? Really, it's a platform that has an axle that you have a rooftop tent on. I mean, not to sound crude, but that's essentially what it is. And I'm not saying that it's not a good form of transportation or that it's a bad idea. It's just that I think the pricing has gotten high. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. That's just a lot of money. And how many people have $40,000 to drop on a rooftop tent with an axle?
I think they absolutely have their use, but I think a lot of customers are trying to force themselves into the use, and it's not their need. Mm-hmm. People see them on YouTube channels and on social media, and they see them in all the sexy places, and they see them when they're opened up and people are out camping in these beautiful places, and they just think it's cool. But they really don't analyze, okay, does this fit what I'm going to actually do? And I think a lot of people find out, at least in my experience, a lot of people go to trailers and go away from them. And then there's some people who stick with them, but they have a particular style that goes with it. And that's not for...
I agree with what you're saying, Phil. I think this is indicative of a larger Overland problem. And I'm going to go on the record here and tell you that the Overland community is going to face a reckoning. And when I say that, what I mean is I believe over the next, maybe even in the short term, over the next year or two, you're going to see a lot more companies go out of business. It's not just Turtleback. It's not just trailers. I think that just like in other industries you've seen in the past, there's been consolidation. There's been larger companies that have bought into it that, quite frankly, the small ones are never going to be able to compete with. And I think that the Overland name, the brand, if you will, is become it's at its climax, and I just think that it's not sustainable. And I think the American economy in general is in pretty poor condition right now. People don't have the disposable income that they did. Prices are high, inflation's up, and the market is soft. I really think that's what's going on. I think, look, Turtleback supposedly had, using them as an example, still had a 3-month waiting list in production. Now, I don't know whether that's a factor of they couldn't produce the product fast enough. They were waiting for parts that were difficult to obtain. There was, issues with the labor force, could be all of the above. But at the end of the day, if you can't make money and you can't sustain a business selling them at $30,000 or $40,000, then something's wrong, right? Maybe it's the cost of materials and labor are too high, but and maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's that the demand did start drastically going down, or the parent company looked at it and said, it's about to happen. We're about to drop off. Let's cut the losses and get out. And I suspect there probably may have been a little bit more of that, because I think you're going to see that across the board in the overland market, whether it's trucks or trailers or accessory gear or whatnot. I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, look at traction devices, Max Tracks and Action Tracks and Super Tracks and whatever they're all called. There's so many of these things. At some point, it's just simply not able to sustain itself. And I think that we have enjoyed over the last 5 years a huge boom in the overland community. Let me bring up another thing for a second. Those of you out there probably have followed over the years, like Overland Bound, or some of these communities that are I'm going to call them pay to play. There's a monthly fee or a membership or something. There was another one that's out there, and it's escaping me for right this second. But I will tell you, over the weekend, I saw some big news in the Jeep community where Light Bright, if any of you guys follow them, I'm going to just say they excused themselves from that particular organization that they were supporting to, quote, circle back, focus on them personally, their whatever. It was a fancy way of saying we're not going to be involved in this anymore, I think. And good for them. I mean, focusing on themselves. I'm not suggesting anything wrong with that. But I think Brad from Trail Recon had been in that as well, and he also had backed out of that. And this might have been a couple of years back now, or a year ago. So, this is, I think, also a crumbling a little bit of just the overland market in general. So you're seeing a lot of this go on, and I think it's going to be a lot worse than people are thinking right now.
I agree. There's a lot of gambles out there on the consumer side and the business side. There's always a gamble when you're starting a business, but on the consumer side, you have a lot of people who have invested in these rigs thinking that they're going to get some kind of return on their investment, either through social media or paying less than they would have paid living in a home. All of those things are coming to roost. I think the economy is really down now. There are fewer people who can afford a trailer. That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. There's fewer. And I would argue that the market is fairly small in the first place. So when you make it fewer than fairly small, now you're talking very tight margins. And I think that the overland market has expanded too broadly. It's blown up too quickly, and it is now going to contract. And I think you can see that across the board, from the manufacturing side, from the purchasing side, from some of the events and festivals. I think you're going to see less of them occurring. I think that, over the last, you and I talked about this, a different podcast where there was an expansion of more and more overland events. I think you're going to see it go the other direction. I think you're going to end up with less of them. And I just think that we're in a sunset phase. And I'm not saying that overlanding or, outdoor adventure travel is going away or anything. It certainly isn't. But I think the commercialization of it, and I like what you said, people were buying things almost as if they were gold bars. So you would buy it and say, well, I just bought a gold bar, and I know that is going to go up in value. Well, that's not the case here. Let's go back to reality. And if you buy a brand new automobile on a dealership, it's been like this for years. You drive it out of the dealership, it's worth way less than it was 15 minutes prior to you buying it. So that's the overland world. And I think people have to recognize that.
And you have to realize that even people outsmart themselves, even like with the vehicle, like you said, we know automatically, as soon as you drive off, you lose money. But I have heard the discussions where people are like, yeah, I recognize that, but I bought this particular vehicle that has this particular resale value. And my rebuttal to that is, yeah, like for instance, what are the Benz trucks? The van, what's the name of the Benz van? The
which van?
The Mercedes-Benz van everybody gets.
Oh, the Sprinter van.
Yeah, the Sprinter van. He was getting the Sprinter van, and right now, the resale value on them is extremely high when you compare them to any of the others. But my prediction is in about 2 years, when people start bringing these things back and trading them in, and I predict there's going to be a lot of that, that resale value is going to dip so low. And I think that's going to happen with a lot of things, like even, for instance, the trailer that we were talking about.
I agree. I think the market is going like this. It's heading downward. How long it does that for, who knows? My background is in real estate, and we see right now, by and large across the country, that the prices on most stuff has remained fairly stable for a long time. So that's probably can't last forever. We have an inventory problem where there's just not a lot of homes on the market. That's a different real estate issue, and it's caused by different factors. But all of these things definitely relate to the overland market as well, because you're seeing it in new cars and used cars. You're seeing it in boats. You're seeing it in aircraft. You're seeing it across the board. I think everybody better grab a hold of their rope and hang on, because it's going to be an interesting bumpy ride coming up. And if you're looking to invest right now in what I'm going to call the overland world, I would give you 2 thumbs down on that. I think it's not a good investment.
I agree. I 100% agree. I've seen this, and I think most people who have been in or around the industry for several years now, you saw it coming. It's been obvious that this time is coming. It's been too sweet. Anybody make anything and put the word overland on it has been able to make a bucket of money. It had to end.
It's coming when the market is so good that you're starting to be infiltrated by what I'm going to call less than high quality players. And what I mean by that is that if the market is just so great that just about everything sells, ultimately what happens is you get, let's use trailers as an example. You get a couple guys in a garage saying, hey, we can make a buck on this. We can make a trailer. And maybe their intent is good. And maybe, who knows, maybe their product can even be good. But they're getting into it, taking risks, and doing it at small scales, and still probably in the beginning at least succeeding because the market is that on fire. So look, if I can't go buy a Turtleback trailer, maybe I can buy the XYZ wagon that comes out of nowhere, because it's available, because they're brand new and they've only built 2 of them. And now suddenly I can get that. And that's what happens. When the market's that good, you could sell anything. But that's contracting quickly, and it's going to eat up. So now when you see a player like Turtleback go out of business, and they were a big player, and they had a well-known name, that does not bode well for the XYZ wagon company. There's no way they're making it, right?
Right. And I actually think that's kind of good, because I'll just real anecdotally, real quickly, I know somebody that is very, very popular, and they had a deal with a trailer company, and the trailer company even made a signature trailer that you could buy that was the same as this particular person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a crap trailer. And when I was on the East Coast, I took the opportunity to visit the place, and it was just a shack that he was building these things out of. And he had just a couple of unskilled laborers working with him.
Yeah.
And it may sound like I'm to someone who doesn't know what's going on. He's like, oh, that's one anomaly. No, that's most of these trailer companies. You just got a guy that knows how to weld and he starts a trailer company. And
Right.
I mean, that's literally a majority of them.
Mm-hmm.
When we were at Overland Expo, did you get a chance to see I think it's called the Adventure One by a company called Potential Motors?
Yes, they're out of. I think they're out of Canada. I think the truck was built in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, something like that.
I think the batteries and the chassis, at least those were.
Yeah, and yeah, so that was a full electric off-road vehicle. Let me just say, I thought it was super cool, but really, it's just simply a covered side-by-side. I mean, it's not much more than a side-by-side. It just had walls, right? As opposed to, so it was like almost like it was a micro mini Volkswagen van looking thing, but it was, all electric. But what shocked me about it, and I'm not raining on I don't know where we're going with this or why you were asking me, but I want to say it only had like 100-mile range, maybe.
It's 200.
200. Okay. 200-mile range. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Which is still very limited.
It's limited, but more so, it was the coolest thing. It might have, to be honest with you, I thought it was the coolest thing at that whole show. And I went over there and I actually did some photos of it with them. And my question is, when it comes down to it, is who is that made for? What is your buyer pool for that particular vehicle? That's what I'm not sure.
Well, first, I am shocked that I finally met somebody who's on the same side of this as me. I love the Potential Motors Adventure One. I agree with your assessment. It's like a upscale glamping version of a side-by-side. But that is why I like it. Like for instance, the way you travel with a motorcycle, right? So that once you get to your destination, you have a more agile vehicle to go even further.
Yep.
So if you view it in that way and keep the mindset that it is a side-by-side because it's not street legal, and think about the possibilities, I think it's awesome. I just don't think it's for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I think it's more like an exploration vehicle. Like if you were going to try to go through the Durian Gap, something like that.
It's what I would call a base camp vehicle, right? So, you establish your base camp and you go out with it. And that's like, whether it's a motorcycle, electric bike, a side-by-side, a quad, whatever your means of getting out for your base camp is, I would put it in that category. My only thing with it is how, so let's take you with a Jeep. What do you trailer that?
Yes. And here's the thing. Let me tell you a little bit why I'm so hyped about it. And I'm probably going to roll some footage while we're talking for the video of this. But anyway, I talked to them. I was all in it and everything. They told me all about it. The towing is the best part. If you can use it as a actual trailer. So I can tow it behind me, stuff everything that I want inside it and use it as a trailer, right? You take that stuff, you put it in your vehicle, but here's what makes it even better. It has what you call regenerative or whatever,
regenerative power. So while it's rolling, it's generating, it's charging the battery.
So
cool. I mean, if you guys haven't seen it out there, check it out. I'm with Phil. I think it's fascinating.
So I think it doesn't answer, but they're the only people who have addressed what do you do about power once you get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, let me ask you this though: did they put a price tag on this thing?
If I remember, it was like, but it's in between 125 and 150. So this is like I said, it's not for everybody. This is for like some, in my opinion, like National Geographic. Somebody's going to have somebody fund this, sponsored for them. I could see if it wasn't an issue with the coal batteries, I could see this being a departure vehicle like in Antarctica or something, in remote exploration. I see a lot of possibilities. Base camping somewhere in the Amazon and then taking those and going further for a few days and then coming back because you've got somewhere to sleep. You've got somewhere to eat. You've got plenty of water.
I mean, I love the idea now that you say that you could trailer something like that and that's your supply thing. Because, I mean, it's not unlike pulling a trailer, right? You could fill it full of stuff and there it goes rolling along. So, yeah, I could see that. But, I mean, now I'm going to give you the negative. That's a lot of money. And so those are the kind of things I think that's indicative of where the overland market has gotten. And these are periphery things that are wants and not needs necessarily. So we've talked on podcasts about, look, the overland, our purpose first and foremost, and I tell people all the time is to get out and just do it. Go adventure, go see things, meet people. All of this stuff that we're talking about is a periphery thing. And that's going to be the ultimate of a side action thing, something that's $150,000. That's a lot of money.
So this is where I was going with opening up with the Turtleback trailers thing. We both agreed that a lot of these little companies are about to get blown out of the water and disappear.
And I think a lot of big ones too.
I believe the ones that survive are going to be the ones that deal with niche markets. Like Potential, I believe, is a very, very niche market. But the demographic who could afford it and who would want it, I think they could actually be very successful.
Yeah, I mean, the question is I don't know. I certainly don't know what their business model is. So I don't know how many of these things they have to sell to make this thing a profitable, existing company. So that's just information I wouldn't know. Assuming that you are correct in saying that it's a niche thing and they don't have to sell it at a high volume, then yeah, I agree with you. I think that the little things are going to be successful to solve, different people's, desires and demands. But, the mainstream stuff, if your model is volume, and, my background is I've been in, for those that don't know, I've been in sales and I've been in production stuff where high volume, most of the things I've owned have all been about high volume. So the small volume stuff, the niche stuff is obviously trickier to run because you've got to be very disciplined and very careful with your overhead. And you've got to be able to make a margin on what you're doing at a small scale. It's not a McDonald's mentality. I can't make 5 cents on every transaction and still make millions. I've got to make a fairly hefty sum of money on each item because I'm only going to sell, 16 this year or whatever the number is, right? So, that's a tricky thing. And those have to be business people. That's not going to be necessarily Joe Smith and his buddy in a garage that happens to know how to weld. That might be well and great. And quite frankly, they might even make a great product. But if they don't have the business sense, they're probably not going to make it.
I agree. That's anybody. That's everybody. I 100% agree with that.
So, where we go with this, my concern is, and it will always be, how does this affect the overland community? And meaning that, how does this affect the players that are in it and the people, much like me, that are going out and venturing? We could be weekend warriors. You could be full timers on the road. How does all of this, I'm going to call it the economic financial thing, affect that? And maybe it doesn't affect us too much if you've got your stuff and you're going about your thing. I think what you're going to see is, let's take Overland Expo West as an example with all those vendors. I think if you asked me what my prediction was in 3 years, I would say that event is much, much smaller. That the vendors that would be in attendance, a lot of them will be out of business. A lot of them will be gone. The demand will be less. The amount that they can charge a vendor to be at a show will be much less, just because that's the sign of the times, I think. That's just my prediction. I mean, I could be wrong. You guys run this tape in 3 years and tell me I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be we're in for a big change.
There's no variance in my opinion other than my window is a little tighter. You said 3 years, I'm at 2. I think the dominoes are already falling.
Yep. Well, let's go. Let's not to beat a thing, but but Turtleback is a good example. They were at one point one of the I don't know if they were a title sponsor, but they were a pretty good sized vendor sponsor at Overland Expo. So there's a good example of a fairly large company that is no longer. And if you multiply that out by another 40 companies that are no longer, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that you've got less vendors and less ability to raise revenue from booth sales of vendors, which shrinks it. Also creates less interest on the part of the consumer, probably, because let's face it, a lot of people go for vendors, and so it's a shrinking. So how does that affect the community? So what I'm mostly interested in, and not to sound crude, I don't really care if they go out of business, but how does that affect us as Overland people in the community? How is that going to impact? Whether it's an Overland Expo where we all come together and learn and share and meet and have reunions with people, to going off-road in backwoods Canada. Like, how does this affect the overall thing? That's kind of where my mindset is. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think that as time goes on, we're going to things are going to settle in every part of this conversation we're having. I think at some point, the amount of people interested in travel and all these various ways of travel, I think it's going to settle, and I think it's going to start to go down. I think it's going to become less sexy as it is now. That's what it is. It's sexy now. You have people who go buy trucks and I mean, right in my neighborhood, there's a zillion trucks that look like they're ready to go all over the world, and they only did it for the look. They don't plan on ever getting their vehicle dirty. And I believe people are going to start coming to the realization, oh, wow, all I do is go for a weekend to camp. I don't need a rooftop tent. I don't need a refrigerator. I don't need a roof rack to go for the weekend with my boys or my family to go camp. Because that's basically a significant majority of the consumers are people who aren't really going anywhere, aren't really doing anything, and they're paying thousands and thousands of dollars to do all of these upgrades that don't amount to nothing.
So now, are you suggesting that the broader population out there, let's use DOMETIC as an example, because it's a worldwide large organization that sells outdoor products, and they sell refrigerators as an example. So are you suggesting then that their sales are going to be impacted not so much by like the diehard overlanders like us, but more by the guy that is driving down your street? And those people are no longer going to be buying the stuff? Are you saying it's not going to be sexy? They're going to move on to something else?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because it was recent that people started rigging out their trucks and upgrading them like this. There was there was a time where it was sexy to have a ski rack on your vehicle, even if you didn't go skiing.
Now it's a rooftop tent.
Right. there's going to be something else. There was a time where it was sexy to have a station wagon.
Right.
You were upscale if you had a station wagon.
Paneling, it was even sexier.
Right. Then it was a sedan. Now you can't get somebody to buy a sedan.
No.
A 5'1", 100-pound woman wants a 4-door SUV with 4-wheel drive.
Right.
To go to the grocery store.
Sure.
So,
yeah. So like if I took DOMETIC, and I don't disagree, because if you took DOMETIC as a company, and let's say they sold, 10,000 refrigerators a year, 9,500 of them probably are turned on a couple times a year, maybe. Unlike, say, my DOMETIC that has not shut off in 3 years. I mean, it runs continuously. It's my refrigerators. So I'm probably in a minority there of using the DOMETIC fridge. So I think you're onto something there. I don't disagree with that. And I think that maybe it's not even that it's going out of favor from a sexy standpoint. These people are being financially impacted nationwide and worldwide, for that matter, where the economy is not as good. So if you want to look sexy, but it's going to cost you $3,000 to put a rooftop tent on, you just don't have it today where maybe you had it 2 years ago.
I agree. I agree. There's no argument out of me. So what do you think would be a solution to change the direction? Or do you even think there is one? I don't.
I don't think there's a solution. What I think is this has happened in every market, in every industry, and everything in the history of the world. And it's just the way things work. What I do think is that in the end, for the people that are really in the Overland community and really care, and we're probably around from the beginning, or even some of the newbies that got really excited about it over the last couple of years, I think for us, it ultimately will be a good thing because it's going to get back to the core. It's going to shed all of this unnecessary stuff. And whether it's, we don't need 40 trailer companies, or it'll bring back the days more where, say, an Overland Expo is more about education, more about getting together in a tighter knit community, and less about the glitz and the glam. I mean, we were going in such a direction. I was waiting for them to, bring in dancing elephants and fireworks on Saturday. I'm not being serious. I was waiting for the laser light show at this. I don't know what I was waiting for, because that's what happens. It's like SEMA. Back in the day, it was sort of like a nitty gritty. People coming with legit new innovations and new products and stuff, and getting together and talking shop and maybe having a couple beers at the bar. And now it's turned into like, it's like showboating. Like, I mean, you're just putting vehicles and whatnot in with stuff bolted all over the place. It's just a glitz thing. It's Vegas.
My display must be better than your display. Everybody has to be standing around. So they'll come up with whatever reason. As long as everybody's standing around in our area, that's the goal. Right. It's no longer having the best product.
That's right. So if you can bring in, one of those air machine things, and it looks like a popcorn maker, and there's dollar bills flying, and how many ever you can grab in 30 seconds. If that's going to create the line around your booth, then that's what you do. And I agree. And I think that's where we were headed, quite frankly. And I think that this is going to end that. I think that we're going to go back. We're going to go backwards. And sometimes backwards is not necessarily worse.
Make Overland great again.
Whoa, be careful. Be careful.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That might get me in trouble.
It's going to turn into Joe Rogan podcast here if we don't be careful.
Right. So another side of this, we've been talking a lot about electric vehicles. The potential, we never mentioned that, but the potential vehicle was an electric vehicle. Anyway, just came up in the news that Shell has decided to expand its network of EV charging stations. Let me read this to you. Shell has plans to increase its electric vehicle charging network. Shell Recharge from 140,000 global charge points today to over 500,000 by 2025. Okay. So I'm going to leave it wide open for you, but the reason I'm bringing it up is people try to look at fossil fuel and an electric as two different businesses and industries, but it's simply the battle to how to fuel your vehicle or your house or your home, because Shell is deciding that they're going to be very, very heavy and top player in charging electric vehicles now.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, it's their business for many years has been all about fueling your vehicle. So this is just continuing down that road. It's like a different division now. Not to sound pessimistic or anything, but I mean, it makes sense for Shell because they can set more charging stations up to send electricity in, but they're fueling the power stations that are making the electricity. So seems like a good idea to me too.
And they already have locations. They're not going to have to all of a sudden work with some real estate company to open up land for them and deal with municipalities and laws or anything. They just need to take their existing locations and add these charging stations.
Yeah, they've got the bricks and mortar. And remember, generally speaking, most fuel stations make most of their money actually on the convenience stores and things that are attached to them, right? So, it's on soda, gum, candy, and cigarettes. True.
Sadly, cigarettes are still very lucrative at convenience stores.
Yep. Yep.
I want to talk about, since this week started the Jeep Jamboree. I'm sorry, not the Jeep Jamboree, but the Easter Jeep Safari.
Safari.
And I don't want to just talk about that, but it's signaled to me to discuss about what are the pros and cons of somebody going to like a Jeep Jamboree or a FJ Summit or whatever it is for your particular vehicle. One of these events where they gather and they go off-road. Because I had somebody, I had to delete their comment on one of my posts on my Instagram in Moab. They were kind of talking bad about Easter Jeep Safari, and I didn't agree with them. They were basically saying it's a waste of time. And I'm not going to say it's for everybody, but there are benefits to someone who's an overlander, and there are benefits to someone who considers themselves a nomad that does go remotely and explores. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like anything else, not everything is for everybody. I don't know what the negative comment was that you got and why they were, tracking it. We have a lot of machismo in this industry. And so the idea of that you would go on a Jeep Safari with a group of people to go off-road is supposed to be like lesser than for you to go on your own or with your boys or whatever. And they said something like that. Like it was like they were pretty much calling you a sissy to go to one of these events. And my thing was, I recommend people to go to Jeep Jamborees and to Easter Safaris and stuff like that. When people are telling me, hey, I'm thinking about getting into overlanding or being a nomad and I want to go to remote places and everything, but I've never been off-road. Well, this is one of the most excellent places for you to go, learn technique, have a support group that will actually get your vehicle back safely, people who will actually spot you properly. It's the best place for you to have your first off-road experiences, I believe. Yeah, agreed. And it's a single mark event generally. What you're talking about here, kind of where it's, it's all a camaraderie of Jeep people, as an example, for that particular event. And I think that that's good. Obviously, you all share something in common, and you can opportunity to meet people that probably have been doing it longer than you have. And it's a good learning environment there. I don't see any negative side of it. I mean, I know that there's been thrown around some of the negative side of it is, some of the events have become very large, and, stuff happens at them, whether it's, trash in the place or litter or whatnot. But I think, once again, I think that's a great opportunity if you're in the Overland community to go to something like this and spread the word that, we're all in this together. So, we should help out.
I'm pretty confident you've had this experience, and almost all people who've spent some time off-roading will have had this same common experience. You initially thought that the parameters and capabilities of your vehicle were one thing. And then when you actually got out there with some people and you did it, you found, oh, wow, this vehicle can do a lot more. And this would allow you to learn what your vehicle can and cannot do. So that'll help you in your navigation. Let's say you're going to drive all the way to Patagonia. You'll know where you should be planning to go and where you should not be planning to go, because you'll know what your vehicle can do.
And I think that is truly one of the features that's good about a single mark event. Whereas, I've been down on them for other reasons, because it tends to get a little on the cliquey side, whatever. I prefer to attend events that are a broad range of different kinds of vehicles and different kinds of people. But in this case, when you go to an event that everybody essentially has, or there's going to be a lot of vehicles there that are just like yours, that is a great opportunity to find out what your particular vehicle can and cannot do. And there's no better place for that. So even if you went to, say, Overland Expo and did the off-road training course there, it's not as good necessarily to learn about your particular vehicle, because there's probably a wide range of vehicles, and the chances that you're going to see the exact same vehicle doing the obstacle course or the off-road course is less. So I think that a Easter Jeep weekend or something like that is a great place if you're a Jeep owner.
And I want to be clear, I'm not just talking about Easter Jeep Safari. I'm only mentioning that event because it's the current one. If you have a Toyota, like I said, I think it's called the FJ Summit, where all the Toyotas do Ouray, Colorado, and do all the trails there. There's all kind of vehicle-specific events. So whatever your vehicle is, that event.
Tons of land. I was involved with the Land Rover community for a long time. There's a ton of Land Rover events, and those are the places to go. So, if you have a Land Rover Defender, a Land Rover event is a great place to go, because there's going to be other Defenders there, and you're going to see what potentially more skilled owners are able to do. And now you know what the limitations of your particular vehicle are.
And one thing that you'll find is most modern day SUVs stock are far more capable than you think.
Way more capable. Yeah. People immediately jump to, as soon as they purchase their vehicle, they get, blinders in their eyes, and they go, these are the things that I need to improve. And there's a whole list of stuff. And the reality is that they're replacing and changing things before they even are aware of what the thing can do from the moment they bought it. So I agree, Phil. They should find out what you can perform and what you can accomplish with the stock vehicle first, before you go and blow a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time improving something that maybe you don't need to improve.
So I want to reiterate what you just said, a clear point to make. It's an excellent thing to do when you first purchase that vehicle stock, to go to one of these events stock, because you'll know after that what you need or do not need. That is probably the best advice for the whole thing.
Yep. I went with my stock, Jake. In fact, it was so stock that I had the paper temporary plates on it still. And here I am, I'm out there on the course trying to figure out what it can and can't do. And, that's probably the way to do it.
Yeah, because you've seen my Jeep, and I've done the majority of all the trails in Moab. Now, of course, I didn't do the tub, and I didn't do all those famous obstacles. But what a lot of people don't even realize is most of those famous trails, you can drive right around the obstacle.
There's a go around. Yeah, in fact, most of those trails, honestly, the trail itself is better than the obstacle. The rest of the trail is amazing. The obstacle is, it's cool and it's a good photo op, but many of them obviously are what I would put in the class of fairly ridiculous. And there is a go around. So yeah, I mean, you could do them all anyways.
I got a question for you. I'm gonna leave it open for you, Mike. You can take it however you want, okay?
Yeah.
Would you overland without social media?
Phil, that's an easy answer for me, being a guy that overlanded for many, many, many years before social media existed. So the answer is a definitive, absolutely yes. And to me, that is not anywhere in the ranking of motivations of why I do it.
Well, I kind of knew it didn't affect you personally, because the experience and the journey is number one with you, and it has nothing to do with anything else. And that's a lot of people. I get that. But I think that social media factors in more and more with nomadic travel. I think that it's the inspiration for many to start, and it's the reason for a lot of others to maintain the lifestyle. The first one is pretty obvious. You see what others are doing on social media, and it inspires you to want to do it. And then those who are already out there doing it are seeing varied ways to do it and other ways to do it. And it inspires them to want to do more or do better, so to speak. So
yeah, I agree. The social media has, I'm not going to say that it's improved it, but it definitely has added another element that I think is a positive thing. So, if I'm doing what I'm doing, but it's going out to, 100,000 people, as an example, those people can be, and many are, inspired. They see stuff that I may be doing, or other people that, are out there on social media, and it gives them ideas. And I think like anything else, there's a tool there, which you got to be careful of, right? So you use the correct way, it's a positive thing. It can be used incorrectly. And you and I have spoken of this before. If it's misleading or leading people to believe that, it is one way and not another way, or this trail is super difficult and you should not go there, or vice versa. We did this and it's easy, and then you get there and it's like not drivable. So being honest is obviously a key component to all of this. But the social media has opened up such a wide range of positives, in my opinion, that it outweighs the negatives.
So how do you think it affects the experience? Because let me just tell you something from me. I've come to the realization that I've been a lot of places that I've never actually seen, because my eyes were looking at the back of a camera or a viewfinder. I didn't actually see that bear across the road at Yellowstone. I saw it the same way you saw it when I posted it. There are a lot of things I did not actually, with my bare eye, see it. I saw it through a lens. So that's definitely one of the worst parts for me, is the desire to share your experience. A lot of times you didn't really have that experience, even though you were there and you filmed it.
I think you have to have discipline. I think that there has to be balance. And I find myself doing this is where the desire to share what you're doing has to be balanced with what you actually are doing. And, I know for me, there are days where I will take more pictures and more video and create content. And then there's other days where I'm like, today is me. Today is about me seeing this. And it's one of the reasons why I like to travel slower. So, I'll be in an area for, say, 3 or 5 days. One of those days can be certainly devoted to social media, where I'm trying to create content for you guys out there and show you what it's like and what I'm seeing. But then there's additional days where it can be just about me. And I think ultimately the social media part will actually get better then, because I can learn about the place and I can immerse myself in the experience more. So I can probably convey it to the viewer better that way as well. So I think you have to have balance. I think if you ran around with a camera similar to like a reality TV show, and you were on, and you had to, every waking hour of the day you were on, and don't get me wrong, there are people certainly in the social media overland world that are like that. I think that's difficult. And those are oftentimes you'll see these people getting burned out occasionally. Be like, I'm taking a 2-month hiatus from Instagram or YouTube or whatever. And I can see why. Because if you're constantly behind the camera, that's tough.
I also think your self-esteem gets involved. I think a lot of times we'll go for doing what's necessary to get the photo or the video instead of doing what we would have really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a prime example of me finally trying that. When I was in Alaska, when I went to go film the bears, the footage I sold. I don't have any personal footage because I wanted every moment that I could to enjoy it. Somebody was paying for this, so I had to do the footage. But if I wasn't doing it for that reason, I was trying to enjoy the moment, because this was like the most important, biggest thing to me. Now, I had to come to a realization as to why I was arguing with myself back and forth. Should I get some images? Should I have something at least to post on Instagram or whatever? And then I realized it came down to, I was looking for proof that I had done it. And I think that's a lot of people. It's like, I gotta get the proof that I was in Baja, Mexico. I gotta get the proof that I was here with these bears or whatever. And in retrospect, with hindsight, it was one of the beautifulest moments of my life, not having a camera up to my eye around those bears. So I think it relates to a lot of times self-esteem or credibility. I got to have this photo to prove that whatever it is happened. Yeah, and once I overcame that, and I think I'll do that more now. I'll put the camera down.
Yeah, that's one of the unseen pressures of social media in general, is that there's a unwritten rule that if you don't see it, it doesn't exist, or it didn't happen. So people are definitely inclined to want to take pictures or video or memories from a place to prove that they were there. And in many cases, it's like the what I'm going to call it, the key places that you're supposed to see. Mm-hmm. So if you go to Yellowstone, if you don't have an Instagram picture in front of Old Faithful or something, you weren't there. And that's a challenge, and it exists. It's real. It's absolutely real, and it's one of the things that people have attacked social media for, rightfully so. It's like a disease a little bit, and we're all susceptible to it. So you just kind of have to recognize that does exist, and because unfortunately it's almost like peer pressure that comes from the other side too, because then people will ask, "Oh, I saw you driving through Wyoming, and then you were in Montana. Geez, how come you didn't go to Yellowstone? And I'd be like, well, I did. Oh, really? I didn't see that. And that's the conversation. That's the dialogue, right? So if you didn't post it, you didn't go there.
He took I-90.
Yep. We're laughing about it, but there's a lot of truth to it. It's like when I put social media up, for those that follow me, know that I have learned over the years, I used to not do this. I used to put everything up what I would be consider to be live, meaning like, I thought it was incorrect to post something from a location where I wasn't at. So, if I'm driving through,
say that again.
I thought it wasn't correct posting something of a location where I was not currently at. So if I was driving through Utah, my Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, whatever the medium is, would reflect, here's Mike in Utah. And then I went to Montana. Well, here's Mike in Montana. Well, I quickly decided, and over time, and that was the mentality. And in many ways, that still continues to be the mentality, I think, with a lot of viewers out there. They assume, right? And I quickly figured out that isn't the way that I wanted to work my social media. So I, create media by going places and seeing and taking pictures and doing video. And I switched it to, so I may post a picture tomorrow of my truck in Wyoming. Well, you can't tell by my background here, people out there, but I'm actually in Connecticut right now. Most everybody, 99% of the people think I'm in Mexico right now.
Well, you were in Mexico. Has it even been a week yet?
Oh, no, right. I've only been here for 6 days, but I got out of that live thing because the live thing puts a lot of pressure on you to perform. Like, you're here, you better let them know you're here now, because otherwise they're going to think you didn't go there. And then you go to the next place. A lot of pressure there. I said, forget that. So I'll put up a story on Instagram as an example. Here we are on the TEMBO Tuscata. We're cooking up blah, 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 blah. That might have happened 3 weeks ago. Does it really matter? No, because you're getting to see something that I'm doing, or you're learning something, or whatever the reason for posting something is. It doesn't matter whether it was today, yesterday, or tomorrow. It doesn't make any difference.
It just made me think about, when I was coming from Alaska and I came to see you on the East Coast, and you were all of a sudden shocked. You're here already.
Why?
And that's because because of my social media.
Well, exactly. So I looked at your social media and I see a post from like British Columbia. So I'm subject to the same mentality. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming anybody else out there. And I go, oh, Phil's in British Columbia because that's what his social media says.
Well, where I was headed with it is because I just wanted to give a little tip to people out there. The reason that happened is because I do a little time shifting so that a person does not know exactly to the hour where I am on a trip. And that's for my safety, because I've had 2 specific situations occur to me where a person met me at a place I was headed to, and they found me through my social media. It turned out to be okay, but it could have been horrible.
Action is, it's like a stage 5 creeper.
Right. I'm actually friends with both of them still to this day.
One of them is me. He's not telling you that. No, I'm kidding. But no, I get it. But it's funny how we all fall into the trap that we think, myself included, here's Phil in British Columbia. He's not going to be here for a while. In reality, you're coming through Vermont at the time, and just because you haven't posted in 24 hours, or that post wasn't put up exactly when you were standing next to that rock that's in the photo. And that, it's just kind of funny. And I think that's one of the stresses that is put on social media creators, and of all types. And I'm not saying just big, famous creators. I'm talking about anybody, out there that's going to post anything, whether it's just for friends and family or whatnot. It's a reality.
I had someone talking to me down the street about fly fishing. They're going to try and do some fly fishing in Montana and Idaho. And I was telling them about fly fishing classes that they could take. And it made me think about all the different classes. We're always talking about, learning about your vehicle, taking a first aid class, taking a wilderness class. But I think there are classes that you can take that will also enhance your trip, but they're not necessary. And like I said, one of them is I think fly fishing, if you're interested in fly fishing, is to take a free class at like a Orvis or something like that. There's a lot of places that will teach you how to fly fish. And I was just wondering, did you have any classes that you wanted to contribute that might be excellent for a person that's going to travel? I thought fly fishing.
Oh, the list goes on and on. It could be kayaking, it could be scuba, it could be snorkeling, there could be anything, any kind of outdoor exercise, mountain biking, yoga. It goes on and on. There's a ton of things that keep you entertained and healthy on the road.
And it can enhance it in so many ways. Like you mentioned scuba diving. Let's say you're going to Baja and you decide you wanted to do some shark diving or just do some diving. Well, they group you into your experience. So you'll be shipped off with the kids to go diving as opposed to the people who are actually going to go to the sunken ship. Right.
But you'll get to see the pollywogs.
Right. Exactly. So in each individual one, there are advantages that you receive other than just having that knowledge. A class that I thought about was a writing class.
Yeah, journaling. Or how to, that's one that being a background in English, something where you are taking making a diary or a journal or thoughts on your travels or trips or just whatever. It's all things that help either your physical or your mental state.
Right. Imagine whatever's the greatest trip or journey that you could ever take in your mind, whatever that may be. Imagine being able to articulate it and be able to share it with others. Not everybody, just because you had the experience doesn't mean that you're able to articulate it in a way where people can kind of have a sense of what happened. So I think there's a real strong benefit to taking a writing class.
Which comes into, it's kind of, we're running around in a circle here, but you're back to social media again, because social media isn't just about pictures and videos. There's narration involved too. So, a picture can tell 1,000 words possibly, but the words and the caption underneath can also tell a story. And if you can convey that, you definitely can convey your message better. So for sure.
And since we're on the social media, I don't know why I didn't come up with this one first. Take a photography class.
Yeah.
And if a person were to ask me, well, I'm going to be doing film and videos, film and photography, I can only take one class, take the photography class.
Yeah.
Because it'll teach you lighting better. It'll teach you composition. It'll teach you all the things you need.
If you know photography, you have a big head start on knowing video.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Your challenge at that point is to learn audio.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Because usually the best filmmakers, it comes down to their compositions.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, because I like to read about cinematographers, and a majority of them are into photography, major. And I'll watch like back footage of when they're making a film. And a lot of times he has a little camera on a strap walking around. That's the only thing he's walking around with is a camera because he wants to see it 16:9.
Right. Yep. By the way, that scene behind my head there is in Baja, just south of San Evaristo on the Sierra Cortez, heading on the road down towards La Paz. So
it's a beautiful shot.
That's where that is. Yeah. That was taken on my Baja Divide bikepacking trip.
So that goes good with what I'm saying about the classes. So somebody hears you explain where that is. They've been looking at the photo the whole podcast, and now they know where it is. Now they want to go. They have the means and the time to go. And you want that photo. Well, if you take a class, you're going to get that photo. You might even get a better photo. Another thing that comes to my mind is the cuisine. There are so many weekend regional cooking classes that you can take that are like less than $100 and learn how to do your own sushi, learn how to make your own pizza, whatever it is. The classes aren't very expensive. And when you leave the class, you'll actually know how to do it. Because most of these classes, they make you actually do the dish. So you're not just watching somebody.
Yeah, I've done a few of those. Particularly, I've done a few of those classes that were centered around the TEMBO TUSK. So, which I'm fascinated with cooking on that. So anytime there's an opportunity to learn something, how to do that on that device, I'm in.
And another one, a dancing class. Wouldn't it be more enjoyable to go into a town and they're doing the salsa in the marketplace and you can just join in?
Yep, I could tell you, I know one other really big one. Pick a language.
I've been holding off on that. I've been trying to let you go with that one.
Oh yeah, what language? I do my Spanish every night. I do Babbel. I just do an online app, and I've been doing it for I don't know, a couple of years now.
Why is that the one out of all the ones we listed? That's probably the least likely one that people will take is the language class.
I know, and sadly, it probably should be the first. It's hard. It's hard as an adult. For most people, not everybody, but for most people, learning a language that you don't know is difficult as an adult.
So somebody made fun of my $300 shovel the other day. I got the DMOS shovel that goes in the bracket and everything, right?
Yeah. I saw one of those. Funny enough, some guy came along through the arroyo that I'm camped at in Mexico, and somebody had a DMOS shovel. Funny enough, I thought of you.
I didn't mind them making fun of, maybe the price tag. That I can get that. I get that joke, but they ended it with, "What do you need a shovel for?"
Oh, a lot of things. I mean, if you're not carrying a shovel, you're doing something wrong.
So that triggered more than one thing in me. One, it was just an ignorant statement. But two, I was like, these are the people who I clean up fire pits and human waste after.
Right. That's right. Because they didn't have a shovel. So we end up doing the work.
Yeah. And that's why I'm proud of my shovel, because it's always right there. Click, click. I got my shovel, and I can clean the fire pit, turn it into a hole, dig up dirt. But let me not ramble about that. That was just a little irritant of mine, and I wanted it to be recorded
for all time.
Right, for posterity.
If you're listening to this in 27 years from now, it's on tape.
Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly list why you need a shovel. But the real reason why I'm doing this is to antagonize this person because I know they watch the show. You need a shovel to put out fires.
You need a shovel to get unstuck.
Yes. Do you know how?
Shovel to go take number 2 in the woods.
And wait a minute. Let's go back to the recovery part. This is just my experience, so I'm not speaking for everybody else. But there have been times where I couldn't work out a way to use my winch. My max tracks, they were not working. That was not the answer. And it came down to, I'm going to have to just dig out the whole area. And if I had not had a shovel, I would not have gotten out. The shovel is more the last resort. I think the shovel, I think, is more of a last resort than the other things that people consider to be the last resort.
Yeah, and I think the shovel is the number 1 recovery tool that you should have.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. By the way, it also comes in handy if you're ever camping in a sandy environment. It's a great way of leveling your vehicle. It's a lot easier to level your truck by digging than it is by trying to put blocks or something under wheels to get your vehicle level for camp. Because it's sand, and then next thing you know, you're losing your tracks or your pieces of wood or wherever, in the sand or underground or whatever. It's way easier just to dig a hole.
Yeah. And a shovel can make or break your experience in this way. Have you ever been camped somewhere and you woke up in the morning, you didn't even realize it happened, and then there's snow out there? And it's beautiful. The only reason that you'd be miserable is you can't, dig out your fire pit, clear out a little area or whatever. But besides that, you like being out there. You're enjoying the snow. So I think that's a big one right there. There's been a lot of times I've woken up where it was like hot one day. I woke up the next morning, it was a little chill and there was a little snow.
Or ice. You could chop up ice too.
And now I'm shilling for DMOS now, our sponsor. That's why I like my shovel, because my shovel will break through that ice. It will break through the ice. You can use it just like a hoe. You don't have to
picking on Phil and his shovel out there. Just stop. I got a shovel too. It's not as fancy as his though.
I'll talk about it offline. He tried to make fun of me in front of others. So I'm making fun of him in front of others.
Perfect.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, Mike?
No, we better escape now while we're ahead. There's so many more things to talk about, but we're going to do that in the next podcast.
All right. Well, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully I'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.